Few leaders today dare to touch on a subject so forgotten, yet so central to Scripture, the Sabbath. Charlie Kirk, known for his strong voice in the political and cultural arena, surprised everyone by leaving a testimony that cannot be ignored. His words about sacred rest echo as a call to reflection and faith at a time when truth is increasingly silenced.
Honored to be here, and thank you. The Sabbath is one of my favorite topics to talk about, honestly, because I'm so sick of talking about politics all day long. It's all I do. So it drives me crazy. This is actually way more important than that, and I could tie the two together if necessary, but we don't have to. It's more important than that. I grew up in a Presbyterian background. We left that church. We went to what could be best called as a Bible-believing evangelical church. So not quite Calvinist, not Pentecostal, somewhere in the middle. Look, we believe many of the same stuff, guys. I believe in the inerrancy of Scripture. I believe you need Jesus Christ. I believe in grace, not works. I believe that there is heaven awaiting us. I believe in an afterlife. I believe in a God that created the heavens and the earth. However, I grew up in a church environment that at the very best would de-emphasize the Shabbat. At the very worst, say that the Sabbath doesn't really matter. The Sabbath is in your heart. You don't need to observe it.
Yeah.
And the story is quite long. I'm actually writing my next book on the Sabbath. It's called Stop in the Name of God.
Notice how Charlie Kirk acknowledges that he grew up in a Christian environment where the Sabbath was practically ignored. But something changed in his life. He realized that this commandment is not just a religious detail, but a practice capable of transforming routine, protecting family, and strengthening faith.
I'm actually writing my next book on the Sabbath. It's called Stop in the Name of God, because Shabbat means stop or ceasing. So I'm not here to sell you a book. It's not even for sale yet. It's just something to think about. And it's honestly how the Sabbath saved my life and helped preserve my family and helped preserve my career. And so two things. Number one, a pastor that I really care about, Pastor David Engelhart. He's one of our board members at Turning Point USA. I was exhausted. It was the summer of 2021. I sat down with him. I said, I'm not sleeping well. I'm fatigued. And he asked me very bluntly, are you honoring the Sabbath? And I gave him very weak theological arguments, honestly. Oh, I'm not bound to that. Or no, I'm not really interested in that. I don't have to do that. And he really challenged me, and I didn't have good responses, to be perfectly honest with you.
Notice how Charlie emphasizes that the Sabbath is not just an ancient tradition or ritual. For him, it was a real turning point, something that brought balance to his life, strengthened his family, and brought meaning to his routine. The advice of a pastor led him to begin looking at this commandment in a practical and personal way.
Allie, I don't know if you know this. Last July, I was traveled all across the country last year. I was getting really stressed and just worn down, typical stuff that happens on the road. And a pastor friend of mine said, Charlie, you got to take a Sabbath. And I was like, oh, we're not bound by that commandment, whatever. And he really convicted me. So every Friday night, I take a Jewish Sabbath, turn off my phone, Friday night to Saturday night. The world cannot reach me, and I get nothing from the world. It will bless you infinitely. Now, I'm not saying you're bound by the law as a Christian. I'm not saying that that's something you have to do.
Notice how he applies the Sabbath in practice, an intentional time of rest, disconnecting from the world, social media, and daily pressures. Charlie shows that this commandment is not only religious, but an opportunity to restore the mind, faith, and relationships.
And if you believe Genesis 1:1, then you honor the Sabbath. If you have questions about Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, which is Bereshith, right? It's the first truth claim of the Scriptures. Then on the seventh day you rest because God created the heavens and the earth. It is the longest standing celebration of time of the creation of the heavens and the earth. And so that realization changed my life. I could talk about this from many different dimensions, what it's meant for me personally, what it means on the macro. I also go to churches across the country. I speak at hundreds of churches of all different denominations. And I will challenge the Christian church because I believe this is the most ignored commandment of the Decalogue to our own detriment. And I will go a step further, and then I'll stop talking because I know we have a whole program.
No, it's fine.
Which is that I believe that honoring the Sabbath is the commandment that allows you to honor the other 9 commandments, and that the enemy has gone after the honoring the Sabbath because then it is easier to weaken the other 9.
These words from Charlie Kirk remain as a final legacy. For him, the Sabbath was not just a forgotten tradition, but a living reminder that God is in control. Resting in Him strengthens our faith, helps us obey His commandments, and appreciate what really matters in life. Perhaps this is the greatest lesson He left us, to recognize the true power of rest and faith. Since creation, the Sabbath has not been just a physical break. It is a divine invitation to reconnect with God, to reflect on our priorities, to restore our minds, hearts, and relationships. Genesis 2 verses 2-3 shows us that God rested on the seventh day after all the work of creation, and in doing so He gave us a perfect model, to devote time to contemplation, renewal, and presence. It's not just about obeying an ancient rule. It's about experiencing God's presence in our lives, realizing that He is in control of everything, and that setting aside time for Him gives us strength to face the challenges of the modern world. The Sabbath is a sacred space where we can slow down, reflect, and renew our physical, emotional, and spiritual energies. Exodus 20 verses 8-11 reminds us that this commandment is central among all others. Keeping the Sabbath helps us fulfill the other commandments more easily because it allows us to prioritize God above all else. Charlie Kirk has shown in practice that turning off your cell phone, stepping away from distractions, and dedicating time to prayer and family is simple but powerful. This time brings peace, healing, and balance, and strengthens not only the spirit but also family and social bonds. As we reflect on his experience, we realize that the Sabbath is not only physical rest, but also mental and spiritual rest. It gives us clarity to make decisions, teaches us to value what is essential, and brings us closer to God in a deep and true way. Every hour dedicated to the Sabbath is an investment in our faith, our emotional health, and our relationship with those we love. Charlie also reminds us that the Sabbath is not restrictive, it is liberating. It is an opportunity to step away from the pressures of the world, to slow down the rush of everyday life, and to recognize that our life has a greater purpose. It is a time for gratitude, reflection, and connection, a time that prepares us to live the week with greater awareness, wisdom, and faith. May Charlie's final message inspire us to look at the Sabbath with new eyes. May we set aside time for God, for our family, for ourselves. May we live this day as a gift, a legacy of faith, balance, and hope, learning to truly rest and value every moment He gives us. If this message touched your heart, leave your like, share this video, and subscribe to the channel so that more people can learn about this legacy of faith. Comment below on how you practice the Sabbath or how you intend to apply it in your life. Your experience can inspire others to value this gift that God has given us. Remember, resting in God is not just an ancient practice, it is a necessity for our spiritual, emotional, and physical lives. The Sabbath is a daily invitation to strengthen our faith and live according to God's will, and Charlie Kirk's message shows us that it is never too late to begin honoring this holy day.